All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the life, the legacy, and honestly, the sheer brilliance of one of modern fiction's most self-made and tragic figures. We're talking about Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. This is a guy whose very name literally struck fear into entire enemy nations, but at the same time, he carried this gentle warmth that ultimately shaped the entire ninja world as we know it. It's a story that is incredibly dramatic, yet just undeniably cool. I mean, his legacy was defined by one simple, utterly terrifying order: flee on sight. Just think about that for a second. Imagine being so staggeringly dominant on the battlefield that entire enemy armies, we're talking hundreds of trained soldiers, are given standing orders to just run away if you even show up. That was the terrifying reality of Konoha's Yellow Flash. But what makes this all so fascinating is that Minato didn't start out as some shinobi demigod. So how exactly did a kid with absolutely no special bloodline achieve that kind of legendary status?
Well, what's truly fascinating is how his origin totally contrasts with your typical ninja prodigy story. You know how in this world it's all about renowned clans, right? The secret jutsu, the crazy powerful bloodlines. Well, Minato? He had literally none of that. No Kekkei Genkai, no genetic anomaly. He was just an ordinary kid in the ninja academy with a massive dream. He wanted the entire village to acknowledge him, and he dreamed of becoming Hokage. But what he did have was raw, once-in-a-generation genius. Even his master, Jiraiya, quickly realized that Minato was a prodigy the likes of which you only see maybe once in a decade.
But, okay, his genius wasn't just about fighting. It was paired with this profound emotional depth. Like, back during his academy days, a young transfer student named Kushina Uzumaki was kidnapped by Cloud Ninja. Now, while the village's full search parties completely failed to find her, Minato alone followed a trail of her bright red hair, which, ironically, was a trait she used to be endlessly teased for. He tracked down the kidnappers, took them out, rescued her under the moonlight, and basically just told her he'd always admired her hair. From that night on, those two lives became inextricably intertwined. It really established the unconditional love that ends up defining his entire arc. So, as Minato grows into this top-tier shinobi, he pairs that fierce desire to protect his loved ones with an unmatched tactical intellect. And this right here, this is where the Yellow Flash is truly born. His chakra mastery allowed him to produce two legendary feats that absolutely revolutionized warfare. We are talking about maximum efficiency and absolute lethal precision. So, the first of these crazy feats is the Flying Thunder God technique, or the Hiroshin. Originally created by the second Hokage, sure, but Minato took this space-time jutsu and refined it to absolute perfection. The really crucial point here is how he used it. By marking these custom three-pronged kunai with his special formula, he could teleport instantaneously to any location where that formula was placed. He wasn't just moving fast. Actually, scratch that, he wasn't running at all. He was literally teleporting. This specific jutsu allowed him to wipe out dozens of enemies in seconds, which, of course, is what earned him that famous flee on sight moniker. And look, if instantaneous teleportation wasn't cool enough for you, he spent 3 whole years developing this, the Rasengan. Inspired by observing the massive tailed beast ball, Minato figured out how to shape-manipulate raw chakra into a fiercely spinning sphere right in the palm of his hand. And the absolute coolest part? 0 hand seals. It's this instantaneous, wildly devastating attack that perfectly complements his blinding speed in combat. But hey, even a battlefield terror eventually has to step into the role of a mentor, right? Once he was promoted to Jonin, Minato was placed in charge of his own squad, and he immediately had his hands full. I mean, he had to balance Kakashi Hitaki's strict, cold adherence to the rules with Obito Uchiha's emotional warmth and Rin Nohara's deep compassion. He was trying to guide these radically clashing personalities through what was an exceptionally brutal era in ninja history. And man, the reality of that brutal era, it caught up with them incredibly fast. During the Third Shinobi War at Kanami Bridge, Minato had to split from his team, and he single-handedly held off a massive force of Iwagakure ninja. But in his absence, tragedy struck. Obito was crushed under a boulder saving Kakashi, passing his Sharingan on before supposedly dying. And then, just months later, Rin died in a Mist Village plot, leaving Kakashi utterly traumatized. Minato's war efforts absolutely brought peace, and his noble heart definitely earned him the title of fourth Hokage over Orochimaru, but you gotta imagine, that heavy loss of his students just weighed so heavily on him. Still, as Hokage, Minato brings this wave of hope and stability to the village. He kept traumatized Kakashi close to him in the Anbu, and soon after, his wife Kushina became pregnant. But this joyous occasion, it was basically a ticking time bomb. Because Kushina was the Jinchuriki, the human vessel of the Nine Tails, her pregnancy posed a severe danger. The seal keeping that massive beast suppressed would weaken dramatically during childbirth. October 10th was supposed to be a day of celebration, welcoming their son, Naruto, a name they proudly took from the protagonist of Jiraiya's first novel, by the way.
But instead, it became an absolute nightmare. A masked intruder somehow bypasses their secret barrier, takes newborn Naruto hostage, and extracts the Nine Tails, unleashing it directly upon the village. Minato has to quickly teleport his son to safety, and then immediately return to face this intruder in a high-stakes, explosive duel. And what happens next is it's combat genius under the highest possible pressure. Minato executes this brilliant split-second strategy. He teleports instantly via his Hiroshin right above the attacker, slams him with a Rasengan, and simultaneously applies a contract seal to sever the intruder's control over the beast. It is so dramatic and undeniable proof of his total tactical supremacy. But defeating the intruder, yeah, that wasn't enough. The Nine Tails was still raging, and it was simply way too powerful to seal entirely back into Kushina in her weakened state. So, Minato makes this devastating, totally calculated sacrifice. He uses the dead demon consuming seal to literally split the beast's chakra. He seals the dark yin half into his own soul, fully knowing it will forfeit his life. And the light yang half? He seals it into his newborn son, placing his absolute faith in little Naruto to one day master its power and save the world from future threats. And when the massive Nine Tails realizes what they're trying to do, it lashes out, attempting to strike down infant Naruto. In a heartbeat, without even a second of hesitation, both Minato and Kushina throw themselves right in front of that giant claw. They impale themselves to act as a final physical shield of love for their son. With their last breaths, literally bleeding out, they leave their final words of love and guidance for Naruto, doing everything they can to ensure he would survive to become the hero the village needed. Now, normally, that should have been the end of his story. But come on, Minato's foresight was just as legendary as his speed. His legacy wasn't just going to be a memory. He literally engineered a way to return from the dead to protect his son and his village when they needed him most. And that foresight paid off in two incredibly epic returns. First, during Pain's assault, when Naruto almost fully unleashed the Nine Tails, a residual chakra seal Minato embedded all those years ago suddenly activates. He gets to meet his 16-year-old son in his subconscious, rebuilds the seal, and finally reveals that he's his father. Then, later on, during the Fourth Shinobi World War, Orochimaru unseals his soul and he is fully reanimated. He just bursts onto the ultimate battlefield, enters Nine Tails chakra mode himself, and fights side by side with Naruto and Sasuke. It is just such an unbelievably cool payoff to his early sacrifice. But returning to the battlefield also brought some wild, dramatic irony and deep, deep heartbreak. Because it was there that Minato finally learned the true identity of the masked man who ruined his family 16 years prior. It was his former student, Obito. The boy he thought died a hero had become this corrupted monster. Yet, rather than seeking out pure vengeance, Minato's gentle warmth shines through yet again. He helps Naruto reach Obito's inner goodness, ultimately leading to his fallen student's redemption. As the massive war finally wraps up, the infinite Tsukiyomi is dispelled, and the reanimation jutsu starts to loosen with the dawn. Minato's soul begins to drift back to the Pure Land, and it just so happens to be Naruto's 17th birthday, leading to this incredibly bittersweet final goodbye. He says, "Tell Kushina I'm doing fine, eating well, and fulfilling our dreams." It brings the journey of Konoha's brightest flash completely full circle. A father who is finally able to rest, knowing his sacrifice totally wasn't in vain. Which really brings us to a powerful realization. Minato's life was short, yeah, but his impact, it spanned generations. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder today. Why do we plant trees whose shade we will never sit in? Minato literally gave his life so his son could stand in the sun. So what kind of legacy are you building for the next generation? Think about that for a bit, and I really hope this explainer leaves you eager to dive even deeper into this incredible